Hi, everybody. It's Craig and Arun back with your Week 12 college football Saturday group of games. It is Saturday, November 15th. Hopefully, if you haven't done so, you've seen us before and you've hit that like and subscribe button. If you're new or, do it again. Do it again. Hit that like button. Put in the comments what you like. Tell us what you like, what we're doing. If you think we should change something, all that kind of stuff, put it in the comments. Or just say, hey, who do you like to bet on this week's slate of games? Don't forget also, if you want in our absolute top bets, top plays, we like all these games. In fact, some of these games might make it on the card. If you want to know which ones and how we rate them and how you should bet them, you go over, you get the 2-for-1 football pass. We made a deal with our grandpapa Doc Wade and said, hey, put us a 2-for-1 pass together. They did so. DocSports.com/Craig Arun, coming off a nice winning week last week. You're going to have 13 to 15 plays this week. This is the only place you can get that. It's just $99 for the both of us for all your football plays for the week. And don't forget, use that Premium Plus as your extra bonus. If you like parlays, props, sides, totals, all the extra stuff that doesn't make our card, this is where you're going to find it. Plus, it's not just football. It's every day. So it's $3,000 to $4,000 a picks if you use the level 3. But you can also do level 2 with this Indian Cowboy or level 1 Lenny. Of course, if you do level 3, you get all 3. So get in on it. All right, IC, let's kick us off here. And we're going to run through these games a little quick. It's a big card this week. Not as many teams on a bye. So let's kick us off. First game we're looking at, UTSA at Charlotte. UTSA favored by 18.5, total 60. What do you like here?
Well, I mean, UTSA is 4-5 and Charlotte's 1-8. I love the fact that UTSA comes off that loss to South Florida 23-55. And, of course, Charlotte comes into this game having lost to, ECU, but they did cover that game. They lost North Texas and Temple and Army. But UTSA, Craig, is not a joke. This team played Texas A&M, lost 24-42. I thought they were pretty impressive against Texas State, even though they lost. They lost to Rice, or they beat Rice 61-13. Lost North Texas, beat the snot out of Tulane after losing to North Texas 17-55, beating them 48-26, beating a Summerall team as a 5.5-point dog off of a loss. Well, guess what they're doing now, Craig? They're coming off of a loss. And you combine that with the fact that these two teams haven't met since 2016. I'm going to take UTSA here. Keep it real simple. Great Eastern Michigan facing Ball State here. Eastern Michigan is a 2.5-point favorite on the road against Ball State. They come off a nice win against Bowling Green State. Ball State off a nice win against Kent State, 17-13. My free pick winner, by the way, Kent State earlier this week, which is why everybody should be sitting on our YouTube Premium or buying our packages. But yeah, what do you think here with both these teams coming off of a win?
I mean, they're pretty evenly matched teams. But to me, when I'm at this point of the season, we have a lot of data, way more than we did early. I'm looking at, okay, if you're a bad team, what is your top and what's your bottom? The top for Ball State was beating Ohio, which I think Ohio is the best team in the conference. If not, they're the top 2. If they play anywhere near that, I think they roll here. And you're getting points. I'll buy the 0.5 point, take Ball State plus the 3. Next game, Wisconsin at Indiana. Indiana, miracle to get that win last week. I was a miracle, but it was definitely a little shock that they could pull that out. They didn't really play that well. They're favored by 30, facing a Wisconsin team that is coming off their first Big Ten win of the year, total 44.5. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, do you really want to take Wisconsin on back-to-back games coming off a nice win and cover? No. I think what happens here is Wisconsin is 3-6. Huge win against Washington, huge win. But I mentioned to you earlier, this team won that game with their quarterbacks, one going for 3 for 12 for 8 yards, one going 2 for 3 for 16 yards, one going 0 for 2 for no yards, and one going 1 for 1 for 24 yards. That's literally how they won this game. They won by 48 yards passing. If you're Washington, you got to be so mad at the entire world. Indiana, of course, comes off a nice win against Penn State, but Indiana has not lost back-to-back covers in a long time. And that's a game they had to come back. There's only one way I'm looking at this, and I think Indiana puts the lid down on this and wins by 35 or more. Craig, South Florida, 10-point chalk against Navy. South Florida 7-2. Navy is 7-2. South Florida comes off a nice win against UTSA, 55-23, impressive. Navy comes off that bad loss to Notre Dame, 49, and has lost back-to-back games coming in. Do note that Navy has now lost 6 straight covers. What do you like here, Craig?
Yeah, they haven't been great, but usually it's because they're favored, other than last game. South Florida right now, they're the team that's from the Power 5, or the non-Power 4 or 5, however you consider that. There's going to be the at-large from the other group. They can't afford a loss, but this is a good Navy team, better than I think what the line suggests. I think this is a correlated parlay type game. If you like South Florida, you got to think the over hits. If you like the under, or you like Navy, you should like the under. I like Navy, so I'm taking the Navy and the under. I think it's a little parlay. Sprinkle a little, as Lenny says, a little pizza money parlay. Nothing crazy, but I do think if you get one side right, you get both of them right in this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on all the great content we have here at Doc Sports. Next game, my Bearcats needed a week off after that beatdown at Utah. Now they face an Arizona team. That was my 8-unit game of the year and cost me either half a point or point, depending on where you get it at. Cincinnati's favored by 6.5, total 56. I'm a little do not bet on Arizona. Are you? You probably not as sour since you didn't have them last week. What do you like?
Isn't it funny how you can become sour on a team just depending, or all about a team depending on if they win or lose? It's so funny how that works out. By the way, you and I had a Smoothie King banter the other day, and it went like semi-viral on YouTube. That it was hilarious. People loved our Smoothie King Pelicans banter. But you have a Arizona team that lost 14-45 in their last game to Utah. I'm sorry, Cincinnati lost 14-45. I was impressed with Cincinnati when they beat Baylor and Oklahoma State and UCF and Iowa State. I mean, they're 7-2, Craig. If they win that Nebraska game, they'd be sitting at 8-1 right now. Arizona, of course, comes in off of a nice win against Kansas and Colorado, but I do not trust them to win 3 straight here. They did not cover that game, and they did make a big comeback in that game. And Arizona does have good coaching. They have a former Patriots offensive analyst as their head coach. Having said that, I love Cincinnati here. They were down 24-7 against Utah. It was an ugly game. They actually didn't, they had over 400 yards of all-purpose yards, but fell short in that game. And I think Cincinnati bounces back in a very nice way here. This is the biggest loss that they've had in well over a year, Craig. So I'm going to back Cincinnati here, despite the fact that the public is on them. Don't care. Sometimes if you're an odds maker, and you're in a 6-3 team facing a 7-2 team, you have to put them as a 6.5 point chalk. It doesn't matter if 70% is on Cincinnati. What do you want them to do? They can't put them as an 8.5 point dog. So sometimes you just got to put the line. You just got to take the hits where it comes. You got to follow your model. So I understand why the odds makers have it as a 6.5 point, favorite. It doesn't matter to me. The public is all over it because I do think there's plenty of people that on these consensus reports, I think there's plenty of people that are taking Arizona plus the points that we just don't see. You know what I mean? So I think that's a little skewed sometimes. That's why it's really important when you analyze a lot of games that you really understand the consensus report. They're like, yeah, I understand it says 75%, but I don't really buy it. You have to understand you have to really have an idea. Or sometimes you'll see a game be like, yeah, I understand why 75% is on the Bucks, favored by 5.5 on the road against the Charlotte Hornets today, right? You have to understand how the makeup works. Craig, Air Force 7-point dog against Connecticut. Air Force 3-6, Connecticut 7-3. Jim Mora doing his wonders over there. Air Force huge win against San Jose State as a 6.5 point dog. UConn coming off a big win against Duke, 37-34. They have FAU on deck. What do you think here? Both these teams.
Well, Air Force's offense has been one to watch. If you haven't seen them play this year, they've put up big points, almost beat UNLV basically on the backs of that offense. The defense hasn't been so great, but they do catch UConn at an ultimate letdown spot. After beating Duke last week, that was the best win this team has had in a very long time. I think it's a trap game, and I know Trapp since my last name's Trapp. Take Air Force plus the points here. Small play, but I do think Air Force has enough offense to stay with UConn in this one. Next game, South Carolina and Texas A&M. I think South Carolina is better than what this line suggests. Texas A&M is favored by 19, total 48, number 3 in the latest rankings as far as the college football playoff poll. What do you like?
Yeah, so South Carolina is 3-6, A&M is 9-0. So what you have here is a South Carolina team that, comes off 4 straight losses. I thought they were pretty, they played really hard against the Alabama game is probably the game they probably shouldn't have won, or they should have won, I should say. So you have a team here that's truly struggled. They lost 14-30 in their last game against Ole Miss. It was a game where they were down 7-17. And then 14-20, and then of course, Ole Miss put up 10 points in the fourth quarter. South Carolina does have a little bit of a talent here, but the question here is how focused is A&M? A&M's covered back-to-back games coming in. Remember, South Carolina beat them 44-20 last year. A&M remembers that. They're going to be up for this game in the biggest of ways. Elko has technically never beaten South Carolina at this point, so keep that in mind too. And I think I know Beamer's in his 5th season right now, and he was the SEC Coach of the Year in 2024. But how quickly things change, I think A&M rolls here and wins by 20 or more. Craig, Michigan 11.5 point chalk here against Northwestern on the road. Keep in mind that Michigan is 7-2. And Northwestern is 5-4. And I got to be honest with you, that Michigan coaching staff is a lot better than we thought since Harbaugh left. They've actually kept the team afloat a bit. And coming off a win against Purdue, but they didn't cover the -21, beat Michigan State and Washington. Northwestern, of course, back-to-back losses to Nebraska and to USC. Does Northwestern hang tough here, or do they get blown out 50-6 like they did last year?
I think it's a big revenge spot. And Michigan, they're still eyeing the big one. Like, they win out, they're in the playoffs, at least in my opinion. That means they would beat Ohio State the last game of the year. They have Maryland next week. I think they looked past Purdue last week, didn't play, barely beat them. I think it's a similar output here. This is not an offense that scores easily. And Northwestern, they kind of got screwed last week. The Big Ten came out and said that fake punch should have been a penalty. So would have covered, I guess, would have, could have, should have. But tough one there if you had them. I like them this week. That stadium they play in while they're finishing up their new football stadium, they're playing in the soccer stadium. If you've seen it, it only holds like 15, 20,000. So I don't think Michigan's going to have a ton of people there. I think Northwestern's going to come out big. I like Northwestern here plus the points, 11.5. Next game, Notre Dame at Pitt. So this is the last tough spot for Notre Dame. And if they get past this, they're going to be in the playoffs. They're, in the latest playoff rankings. Pitt, they are – no one's talking about them. They have been great this year, 7-2 straight up. And again, they've got a tough Miami last game of the year, so very tough schedule. But if they could win out, they'd probably have an argument to be an ACC representative. Notre Dame's favored by 12.5, total 55.5. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame, obviously 2 7-2 teams. Keep that in mind. I think you're going to see the best effort from both these teams. I was a little surprised the total was 55.5. I had this total closer to maybe even like 51. So I was a little surprised at that. Notre Dame, of course, comes off a big win against Navy. I don't know if I trust Notre Dame because they did beat Boston College 25-10, but they were a little sketchy that game. They did beat NC State 36-7 as well. To their credit, they know what's in front of them. Notre Dame, after this game, obviously has Syracuse and Stanford a little bit easier. You're 100% right. They know that if they can get past this game, they'll be okay. Pittsburgh coming off 5 straight covers, big wins against Stanford and NC State and Syracuse and FSU. And, of course, they only lost by a touchdown at Louisville. And if they win that game, they're going to be sitting at 8-1, and they should have beaten West Virginia, so they could be 9-0. Okay, so keep that in mind. I think what happens here, and, keep in mind that Notre Dame played them 2 years ago and beat them 58-7, right? So Narduzzi remembers that ugly, ugly beatdown that he took to them. But I also think it's interesting, right? You're seeing Notre Dame. Look, what is the common man thinking? Notre Dame is a 12.5-point favorite against a 7-2 team. Give me the 7-2 team that's getting the points, right? I think what happens here is this game goes under. I think these two teams are going to be very much ready for each other. Notre Dame has a lot on the line. Pittsburgh has a huge amount of revenge. They're not going to score 50 points like they did on them last year. Give me the under, Craig. Hi, everybody. This is Craig and I's 2-for-1 football package. You can get each of us for $99. But guess what? We have a deal that you can get both of us for $99. How does 50% off sound? Probably one of the best deals on the internet. You can get both of us. Each one of our football packages are normally $99. You can get us both for just $99. Incredible. Kansas State here facing Oklahoma State. Bear in mind that Kansas State is 4-5 and Oklahoma State is 1-8. And Kansas State lost to Texas Tech 20-43. Oklahoma State coming off a loss to Kansas 21-38, but they did cover. What do you like here?
They had a bye last week, Oklahoma State, which was big because they fired Gundy, 5 weeks ago now? And so it's always usually that's why they fire right up to a bye week, because then you have that bye week to kind of get the coaching staff, make some adjustments, put their stamp on the team. I think that will be a big upswing this week. And they're facing a Kansas State team that just finds a way to lose between penalties, just dumb plays. Like, they've literally at least 3 games this year that they should have covered, if not one, and they didn't because of their own faculties, as they say. And I think they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. Ugly underdog theory. This is one of the ugliest underdogs of the week. Give me Oklahoma State plus 18.5. Next game, Arkansas at LSU. 2 interim coaches facing off here. LSU's favored by 5.5, total 56. What do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, I like – look, I understand that LSU, I thought, played quite well against Alabama, but I thought they were kind of flat. By the way, before I forget, if you really want the edge for Craig and I, you got to jump on the $99 package, right? For 2 things here. One, you can get football for $99, each one of our packages for $99, or you can get both of our combined packages for football for $99. We're going to try to run this for the NBA. We're trying to talk to the man upstairs, if you will. And if you really want to hang out with us more, right? The edge, that is YouTube Premium. You literally get an extra video from us every single day in your box, which is just awesome. And we do a lot of fun stuff with our clients. It's really a great community. You get an extra video from me every single day. You get 120 extra selections. You get a written summary of every single selection. And then if you get Craig's, which is the level 3, you get 3 premium doc selections. That's $90 worth of value. Premium selections. Each one would be $30 a piece each. You get $90 worth of value for just $50 a month. So $90 a day, $27, $100 a month for $50 a month. Oh yeah, and with that you get me for free as well. So be sure to jump on that. All right, so getting back to this Razorback game, I love the fact that Arkansas lost to Mississippi State by 3. I love the fact that they lost to A&M by 3. Only Notre Dame has played A&M that close. They lost to Tennessee by 3 as well. I mean, what do you want to do if you're Arkansas? Notre Dame, Tennessee, A&M, Ole Miss, they played a brutal schedule. LSU did, play well against Alabama, but they only scored 9 points. I think this is a game where LSU won 34-10 last year. I absolutely love Petrino here. I like them plus the 5.5. I think they finally get their first win here. And which coaching staff do you really trust, Petrino or this LSU coaching staff? Come on, man. Give me Petrino. This guy's coached the Atlanta Falcons, although he ditched us overnight and he ran away. But that's another story. We'll talk about that. West Virginia, 11-point dog against Arizona State, Craig. West Virginia, back-to-back big wins against Colorado and Houston. Arizona State, big win against Iowa State. What do you like here?
I think it's a big letdown spot for West Virginia. 2 really nice wins back-to-back, and now you face, I think, one of the hottest coaches. I think someone should be backing up a dump truck full of $100 bills on Kenny Dillingham's, deck and say, tell us no. Tell us no. I know that you want to, you love Arizona State. Pretty sure that's his alma mater, but you put enough Benjamins there, I think he might leave. LSU, you should be the one doing that, in my opinion, or Florida. I like ASU minus 11 here. I kind of thought this line might be like 10, 9.5. So they try to, get it's 11. That tells me that ASU is a lot bigger favorite than what I kind of thought. I'm going to go with the money here, ASU minus 11. Next game, Oregon State at Tulsa. Oregon State's a 2.5-point underdog. Both of these teams are not good, just 2 wins each, total 49. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, Oregon State, what a fall. Remember we used to watch Oregon State make several bowl games. It was a lot of fun, when they were in the pack. And now it's just so different now. Oregon State, of course, is 2-8, facing a Tulsa team, that is also 2-7. Oregon State, by the way, lost to Sam Houston State 17-21. They were 21-point favorites, Craig, coming in that game. That's a bad loss. I think simply because of that.
That's Sam Houston's only win, by the way, on the year.
And look, they had beaten Washington State, they'd beaten Lafayette, and they just had a massive letdown. That's all it was. And they played App State tough. They played Houston tough. I mean, you got to respect that. I understand Tulsa beat Oklahoma State, but Oklahoma State's terrible. I understand that Tulsa, lost to Temple by 1, which is impressive, and lost to FAU. What I do worry is I wonder if this line is simply because Oregon State is the name Oregon State. But based on the metrics, I got to go with Oregon State here. Tennessee Tech is a plus 20.5-point dog against Kentucky. I want to let you know that Tennessee Tech has won 5 games in a row, okay? And I want you to know that Kentucky beat Florida and beat Auburn, and they could make it to a bowl game. But this is a sandwich game for them. I'm not trying to make you lean one way or the other. I'm just saying you beat Florida 38-7. Kentucky has not covered back-to-back games coming into this game, and you have Vanderbilt sandwiched in. I need to find out what Tennessee Tech's mascot is, first of all. But who do you like here in this game?
Well, like you said, it's a massive sandwich.
Golden Eagles.
They play Vandy and Louisville to finish the year after this. So they've got to win 2 of the 3 to become officially bowl eligible. Mark Stoops, of course, is hot as hot seat gets. If he wins one of those last 2 games, I don't know, can you sell it to your fan base that, hey, it's another 500 season and a very tough SEC? I don't know. But I like the under in this game. I also think Tennessee Tech is a pretty live at 20.5. I think if you probably wait till game time, you might get 21. It's not a great Kentucky team. So give me the points, give me the under, double play in this one. I'm not going to parlay him, but I won't talk anybody off of it. Next game, North Texas at UAB. North Texas, big favorite. They're still 8-1 on the year, and most people don't know that. 7-2 against the spread. Big 18-point favorite at UAB, total 69. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, so here's a couple things I want to share with you. North Texas is, of course, this total sits at 69, okay? North Texas beat Navy 31-17, but that's the lowest output they've had, Craig, since all year. That's the lowest amount of points they put up all year. So keep that in mind. And that's because Navy's defense is much better than any of the defenses they've kind of played. UAB put up 19 and 17 points in back-to-back games, but I absolutely love the over here in this game, man. I think this game gets to around 74 points. UAB can be an active dog. North Texas will let loose actually as well. Give me the over between North Texas and UAB. Craig Marshall, we are Marshall, minus 7.5 point favorite on the road against Georgia State. Marshall is 4-5, back-to-back losses. They haven't lost 3 in a row all year, losing to James Madison and Coastal Carolina. Georgia State, the Panthers, have lost 6 in a row coming in, have lost 4 straight covers. Marshall beat them 35-20 last year. You think Marshall rolls, or you think Georgia State gets a little revenge?
Yeah, Marshall played really good last week, better than the final score. They did barely cover, but they played good. And, sometimes if you just look at the final score, you're like, maybe they didn't play that well. I thought they played well. On the road, they're begging you to take Georgia State, giving you the extra half a point. Don't fall for it. Take Marshall minus 7.5. This is not a good Georgia State team. 1-8 straight up, 1-8 against the spread. So even though they're underdog every game and getting a bunch of points has not mattered. Take Marshall. Next game, UTEP and Missouri State. Missouri State minus 4.5, total 50. The news this week, Missouri State is petitioning the College Football Alliance to allow them to be bowl eligible, even though it's their first year and they're supposed to have to wait a year before going to a bowl. Last year, I think it was last year, the year before, they allowed that from maybe James Madison or somebody it was. So hopefully they will do that. Do you think Missouri State keeps it going here?
Big fan of Missouri State ever since they lost to USC, but I knew about their coaching staff pretty well because that was a game in which they lost. And that's the reason why people always wonder why we talk a lot about the coaching staffs, that you and I talk about head coaches and assistant coaches, because that makes a huge difference. It makes it just as much of a difference. I mean, look what Vrabel has done over to the Patriots. What has really changed with the Patriots besides Vrabel? You know what I mean? So that's the reason why we talk so much about coaches, and that's the reason why Missouri State comes off that bad loss to USC 13-73. And I was on Marshall on my card as part of my IC6 the next week, which is why you should be a part of our football card, and you should definitely be a part of YouTube Premium. That's where you really learn how to be a better handicapper and win for yourself. We teach you how to fish on YouTube Premium. But this is a Missouri State team that lost to SMU, who could have been a playoff team 10-28. It's a team that almost beat Western Kentucky. It's a team that's program is rising now that they're in Division I. They've won 4 in a row. They have something good cooking over there in Missouri State. And that's the reason why we get you on a bunch of teams before anybody else gets you on those teams. I honestly believe you and I have the best show in America. I really do. If you're watching sports handicapping and you want to know about ball games and in-depth analysis, I don't think there's anybody better than us. I really don't. I'll take it to my grave, because everybody else just gives you a bunch of fluff and they want to talk about controversies. They don't talk about actual metrics and work. They don't actually effing do the work. We actually do the work, and that's why it's evident. But that's just because I'm biased, because I know we're the best. But that's besides that. Not that we're always right or always wrong. You know what I mean? Like, we're not always right. We may get things wrong too, but our effort is there. We're not going to waste your time. But as it relates to UTEP here, UTEP comes off back-to-back losses to Jacksonville State and Kennesaw State. Of course, Missouri State comes off 4 straight wins. These two teams haven't played each other. I hate the fact that Missouri State's only a 4.5 point favorite. Like, I'm surprised. Why? You know what I mean? I would want them to be a little bit more of a favorite here. But I think what happens here, Missouri State put up 21 points in their last game, which is their lowest output in 6 games. I can see UTEP being an active dog of late, putting up 20 and 27 late. I can see this game going over. So I like the over. Craig, Colorado State, we keep expecting them to come around the corner, and they don't. They were only listed as a 4.5 point dog to UNLV, and they got clobbered 10-42. They were listed as a 5.5 point dog to Wyoming, got clobbered 0-28. Do they finally show up here against a New Mexico team that just beat UNLV 40-35, that's going bowling, who's 6-3, beat Utah State, beat Nevada? That's a big deal. Colorado State has beaten this team every single time in their entire history. New Mexico has never, ever beaten this team. What happens here?
Yeah, not so fast, as they say. Colorado State's going to get hammered in this one. They've lost 80-10 the last 2 games. You put those 2 games together. Was not close. UNLV could have scored more, FYI. It was lopsided, and UNLV was taking it easy on them late. This is a New Mexico team. I even see some 14.5s out there. So jump on it now. Take the New Mexico minus 14. They get revenge and finally end this losing streak against Colorado State. And I like this New Mexico team. I think they keep it going here. Next game, Middle Tennessee at Western Kentucky. Pretty lopsided game here. 1-8 Middle Tennessee against a 7-2 Western Kentucky. WKU's a 13.5 point favorite. 56.5. What do you like?
Yeah, so look, Middle Tennessee State is coached by Derek Mason. Okay, Derek Mason used to coach at Vanderbilt, and he is, a defensive-minded, focused on running type of guy. Okay, his job was on the line They are 1-8, but they have started to show up a little bit better. They only lost to Missouri State by 2, lost to Delaware by 3, Jacksonville State by 3. Those aren't bad losses, right? He's lost 3 games by 8 points. Then they get blown out by FIU, but don't hold that against this team because they got blown out by FIU because FIU had come off back-to-back losses, and FIU had not lost 3 in a row all year. That's why they blew them out. So it's not his fault. Western Kentucky, of course, comes off nice wins against Middleton, New Mexico State, Louisiana Tech, and guess what? They got a team called LSU on deck. I think what happens here is Middle Tennessee covers this game plus a 13.5. Do I have enough gonads to pull the trigger? Maybe not, but it might be on my free play or YouTube Premium. I like Middle Tennessee State here. All the metrics point to them doing decent. South Alabama -4, Craig. We really expected Major Applewhite to come through here. I know a lot of South Alabama alumni who spent a lot of money at the school, and they're a little disappointed. But maybe they'll turn the corner. They just lost to Louisiana-Lafayette 22-31. Did beat Georgia State 2 weeks ago, though. Louisiana-Lafayette has lost 5 in a row. South Alabama crushed them 46-17 last year. Louisiana-Monroe, shadily only a 4-point dog at home. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, the line does give me a little worry because I actually thought USA should be closer into that 6 range. I just think they're talent-wise, they're just more talented. They have not put it on the field, but neither has UL Monroe. Give me South Alabama, small play, but I think South Alabama is just too talented to keep struggling like they are. Give me the -4. Next game, Southern Miss, and Coach Huff has done an amazing job in his first year there. They face a Texas State team that 3-6, but they've been in a lot of games that I thought they should have probably covered but didn't. It's a little worrisome. It's only -4 here, Southern Miss, total 65. What do you like?
Texas State team that's a 4-point dog, right? If you're Texas State, Craig, what are you looking forward to? You have to show, if you are the head coach of Texas State, right? You have to show that you have a team that can compete for a championship, at least not now, but eventually, right? So I think that's what kind of happens here. This team is 3-6. They've lost 5 in a row, or 6. Yeah, lost 5 in a row. Lost by 3 to Lafayette, and lost a close game to Marshall, and by a touchdown to Troy, and by 1 to Arkansas State. And then you have a Southern Miss team that has won 5 in a row coming in, right? And yet, why is this team only a 4-point favorite here at home? Why? And this total is at 65. I think it's because they're going to put their absolute best effort in this game, man. I really do. Southern Miss, it also put up 27 points in their last game, which is probably one of their lowest outputs of the year. It is one of their lowest outputs of the year. I think Texas State's going to be an active dog. I think Southern Miss is going to put up their fair share of points. Look for this game to go over the posted total. All right, Craig, so UCF 20 plus 23.5-point dog against Texas Tech, who looks like they're going to the playoffs. UCF coming off back-to-back losses to Houston and Baylor. Texas Tech, of course, that huge win against BYU. Do they have a letdown here as they look ahead to West Virginia? Or do they stay focused? Like Indiana, I think might stay focused. But of course, we can't all be Coach Kurt Cignetti. Who do you like here in this game?
Well, let's remember the Big 12's, even if they're going to win this game, Texas Tech, they're going to win against West Virginia. Then it comes to the Big 12 championship. Who knows who they're going to face at this point? Could be a rematch, BYU, Utah, Cincinnati. There's a bunch of teams up there. They have to win that. If they don't win, I don't think Big 12 is getting a second team, even if it's Texas Tech losing in a close game. I think there's a little letdown in this spot after playing so well the last few games. Central Florida played really good against Houston. They probably should have won that game. They had too many chances late. Give me the 23.5, even maybe buy that half a point, 24. All right, I see next game for you, NC State at Miami. Miami's been, I think, super disappointing since early in the year. I thought this team hasn't gotten any better. They can still make the playoffs, but they're going to need some help, in my opinion. Miami -14.5, total 55.5. They might need some style points here. Does that come into your handicapping here?
The thing about NC State is that huge win against Georgia Tech, right? So how do they respond? Is this going to be a game like Pittsburgh when they lost by 19, or is this going to be a game like Georgia Tech where they kind of show up? And Miami, of course, comes into this game beating Syracuse 38-10, but they didn't necessarily cover that game. And I thought they played okay. But I think Miami needs to win by a wide margin, and it does say something when you beat the snot out of a team who just beat the snot out of Georgia Tech. So I do think the style points matter. I'm going to back Miami here. All right, Craig, Penn State, 7-point chalk against Michigan State. Maybe Penn State finally gets their first big win without Franklin. They've won 6 in a row here. And you made a comment off camera, and you mentioned that they could go bowling still. They're 3-6, but they could win out in the last 3 games, beating this Michigan State, Nebraska, and Rutgers team. Michigan State, of course, comes off 3 straight covers, but 6 straight losses overall. Who do you like here?
I think they win this game, and I think they win out and go bowling, or at least now sometimes they turn down bowl bids because, they're going to have a lot of people transferring now, coaching changes, all that. But I do think they win this game, which what matters to us. I thought they looked really good last week. I thought they should have won, actually. But either way, they covered. I think Michigan State is really bad. Really bad. And I think they don't have the horses to compete with. Penn State just has better players. And I think they finally end this 6-game losing streak. Next game, Oklahoma, Alabama. Your Alabama Crimson Tide, -6, total 46 against Oklahoma. Great game. Oklahoma loses. They're out of the playoff picture. Alabama loses. Potentially, they could still survive. What do you like here?
When I take a look at this game, I was stunned that Alabama was only a 6-point favorite. I thought they were going to come in as a 7.5-point favorite. And that's because Alabama has revenge against this team. Right? Remember, it kind of reminded me when Tennessee came into town, when Alabama was kind of that kind of favorite, and they were able to easily cover. So Oklahoma beat this team 24-3 last time. I think Oklahoma is going to give Alabama, my team, some issues here. They're coming off a big win against Tennessee, 33-27. They only lost to Ole Miss 26-34. They had Ole Miss on the ropes for sure. This was a game in which they were up by 1 going into the fourth quarter against Ole Miss. And that was entire Ole Miss's kind of hopeful. Their entire hope was going to be done if Oklahoma won that game. Alabama did win against LSU, but they did not look good, Craig. They beat South Carolina, but they did not look good. They barely beat Missouri by 3. A lot of things have gone well for Alabama this year. They barely beat UGA by 3 in a game they could have lost. This is a dangerous game for Alabama. I kind of lean on Oklahoma, but I just can't make myself do it. I do think that this game probably goes under the posted total. Last year's total went way under. I think this one's going to go way under, too. I'm taking the under. Craig, App State, 21-point dog here against James Madison. App State, of course, is 4-5. JMU is 8-1. App State has lost 3 in a row coming in. James Madison comes into this game, having won 7 in a row coming into this contest. App State winning 34-20 last contest. Who do you like here?
Well, James Madison's the team that's probably like they need help. South Florida's probably got to lose. The American, maybe needs to become a dumpster fire, and they would be the playoff team. They would be like the non-Power 5 team that gets in. It's a lot of points though against an App State team that has looked good at times this year. I just think this is way too many points. I do think JMU wins, in that 14 to 7-point range, but they don't cover. Give me App State. Next game, San Jose State, been so disappointing this year. 9.5-point favorite, total 52.5 at Nevada. What do you like?
Okay, so when you take a look at this game, you're talking about Iowa, right? I want to make sure.
San Jose State at Nevada.
Okay. I wanted to talk to you about Iowa, but I'll tell you what my Iowa thought is in a second. Okay, so San Jose State, Nevada. Look, every time I have faith in San Jose State, it doesn't come through, right? They lost to Air Force at a 6.5-point chalk, okay? They were favored over Wyoming on the road. They fell short there too. This is a team that lost to Air Force 16-26. Nevada, of course, comes off their worst loss of the year, 14-51 against Utah State. Nevada, keep in mind that San Jose State beat them 35-31 last year. I want you to take a look at the total here at 52.5. I know it sounds crazy. The public's all over the under. Do not trust San Jose State. I think Nevada comes in here. They put forth their best effort. This is the worst loss they've had all year, giving up 51 points. I mean, heck, they only gave up 46 to Penn State, and they gave up 51 to Utah State. Look for a game in which Nevada is a fantastic active dog. San Jose State only put up 16 points in their last game. They're going to put up points in this game too. I definitely like the over. Craig, Iowa here. Speaking of Iowa, plus the 6.5 against USC. I definitely have a lean on this game, but I'll let you go. Iowa lost to Oregon 16-18. I remember you saying that they were tight in that game against Oregon. They fell short. USC coming off back-to-back big wins against Northwestern and Nebraska. These two teams met back in 2019, so it's irrelevant here. Who do you like?
The best 2 losses of the year from Iowa. They had Indiana on the ropes. They probably should have had a chance at least to win that one. They had Oregon beat. Was it 35 seconds left, and they allow them to go down and kick a field goal, and they lose. They did cover both of those games. This is a huge letdown spot, but a team that's so feisty like Iowa, and they're so physical. USC, if you want to beat USC, you have to be physical with them. I think that's what they do here. I think the under in Iowa are the plays. Of those two, I probably would take the under as a stronger play, but I do think Iowa has a shot to win this game. I don't know. USC, they're still holding out hope. If they win out, they still have Oregon on deck that they could sneak in to the playoffs. I don't see it happening, but that's the rumors around USC campus. Next game, Virginia at Duke. Duke -4, total 58. Of course, Virginia coming off a tough loss. Duke coming off a loss to UConn. Who bounces back here?
Yeah, so Virginia, they had a lot of close losses and it finally caught up with them. I was on Wake Forest, one of my 6 selections. They lost to Wake 9-16 in their last game. They'd beaten Cal, UNC, and but keep in mind they beat UNC by 1, a game they should have lost. They beat Louisville by 3. They beat Washington State by 2 as a 15.5-point chalk. So the signs are definitely there. Duke, of course, comes off a tough loss against Connecticut. They were 7.5-point favorites coming in. And this is a team that had beaten Clemson on the road, a team that could have beaten Georgia Tech, to be honest with you, but they had that fumble right out of the gates when they're about to score at the 2 or 3 yard line. And that was a contest where they could have flipped the script. That was taken back for a touchdown. They could have been down. Duke could have been up 14-0 at the half. Instead, it was 7-all. And then you combine that with Georgia Tech putting up 17 points in the fourth quarter. I mean, that was a game where it was actually 10. They outscored them 17-8 going into the fourth quarter. So, I mean, I think Duke is the right spot here. I think Virginia's going to be super hungover from that Wake loss and then out of the playoffs. Duke's going to be super hungry. Give me Duke here. How's it? Sign up for our free $60 of the premium selections, which is docsports.com/ICCT. You get free $60 of the premium selections so you can try us out. It's the best way to kind of thank us for all the hard work that we do, along with liking and subscribing and joining on YouTube Premium. Craig, Georgia Tech 17-point chalk against Boston College. They need maybe some style points here. They lost NC State 36-48 as a 5.5-point chalk. Boston College losing one of their worst losses of the year, 13-45 against SMU. Who do you like here?
That was a tough spot for BC after, playing Notre Dame pretty tough. That's their big rival. And then, so you kind of give them an excuse on that one. And, Georgia Tech, they require so much. It's almost like the Tim Tebow days of Florida, where the offense is so built around Tebow back in the day of Florida. It's that way for King and company at Georgia Tech. It's just asking a lot to not only win, but cover by 17. I think this is the second ugliest underdog of the week. And I love ugly underdogs. Take BC plus the 17 points. Next game, Maryland at Illinois. Maryland, Loxley, I believe that's his coach's name, is on the hot seat, like hot. I don't think he can survive this season if he doesn't find a way to win 2 of these last 3 games and become bowl eligible. Illinois is favored by 14.5, total 53.5. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Maryland is 4-5, right? And it's crazy because it was the game against Washington where I had Washington as like one of my 8 stars. Of course, I bounced back with the Rams and they won. But, 20-24 loss to them in a game where Washington came all the way back. If you remember, Washington put up 24 unanswered points after they were down 13-0. And, then they turned around and lost Nebraska by 3, UCLA by 3, and that broke their back. And then they faced Indiana and lost by 45, and then they lost to Rutgers. How quickly things change. Illinois comes off a great win against Rutgers, 35-13. But, it's been a while since Indiana also beat Purdue 43-27. Wasn't that impressive? I think what happens here is Illinois also beat them 2 years ago. Look, Maryland has to bounce back. The coach is in the hot seat. I think he's going to put forth his best effort in this game. And I'm going to back Maryland in this game, in this contest. At the end of the day, he is from the Saban coaching line, and I think he gets him going. At the very least, he coaches him up to try to save his job. And keep in mind that Maryland, Illinois also has a tendency to give up, has a letdown after a strong performance in their previous game. Craig, FAU, 18-point dog against Tulane. Summerall could be on his way out. We don't know yet. Florida Atlantic, big win against Tulsa, 40-21. Tulane, of course, coming off a big win against Memphis, 38-32. Both these teams coming off huge wins here. Who do you like?
This Tulane team is quietly lurking. I think they can win out. If they win out, I think they have a very good argument to make the playoffs instead of, JMU. I think it'll come down to those two if those two win out. It's a tough spot for Tulane because obviously your coach is like, there's probably not a hotter coach outside of the power, like the Lane Kiffin of the world, that I think is an obvious fit at a couple schools, both LSU, Florida. I would even say Penn State if they get past a few guys. But they continue to play well. I think they do it again this week. I think Tulane is just on a roll right now. Give me minus the 18 here. I think they continue to play really good football, and I think they win by 3+ touchdowns. Next game, Memphis at Eastern Carolina. East Carolina's played a lot better lately. Memphis has kind of struggled a little bit, especially last time out on that big primetime game against Tulane, I believe. East Carolina is favored by 3, total 60. Can Memphis find that back ways again?
Yeah, it is shocking to East Carolina's favorite here, but I guess it's not that shocking, right? Memphis lost to Tulane 32-38. For all purpose, according to us, at least me, their Memphis is out, right? You can't have a loss against UAB as a 24-point chalk and be expected to be considered as a playoff team. You can't lose to a team like UAB and be a playoff team. You just can't. You can even explain a loss to, a team in the top 25 or a team just outside the top 25, but not this. And East Carolina comes in beating Charlotte and Temple and Tulsa, 3 big wins, beating Army and so on. And I think East Carolina, they're on their tip up, right? They also beat them back in 2022 as well, so they're not afraid of them. I like East Carolina here minus the 3. I think they've been exceptional, 40-plus points the last 3 weeks. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. And they could have beaten Charlotte even by a wider margin if they wanted to, but they sort of let up there. So let's back. I'm going to back East Carolina minus the 3 here, but I'm probably going to take them on the money line. Craig, New Mexico State plus 39.5-point underdog against Tennessee. New Mexico State played well against Kennesaw. It was a good team. Lost by 3 points as a 12-point dog. Tennessee off a tough loss against Oklahoma, 27-33. Only a 2.5-point favorite coming in, so that kind of told us something. Who do you like here? These two teams have never met.
It worries me laying this many points in a Tennessee team they want to finish strong. They have 2 big games after this, and I think if you're Tennessee, you might take this game a little lightly. It's obviously sandwich spot of all sandwich spots. I'm going to take New Mexico State small, but I think they keep it within like 35. I think with 5 touchdowns, give me that New Mexico State to cover. Next game, UNC at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is coming off that big win, minus 6.5. North Carolina, I think this team could go bowling. I really do. I think they've really played strong. I mean, 2 really close losses. That bad fumble that was going into the end zone stopped on the half-yard line, or they would already be bowl eligible. What do you like here? Total's 38.5.
I mean, I like North Carolina. What do you want me to do? I was impressed with North Carolina, what they did against Virginia, losing by 1 as 11.5-point dog. They should have beaten Cal. They should have beaten Virginia. They're 4-5. They could easily be 6-3 coming into this game. I mean, if you really look at it, they lost to TCU to open up. Okay, fair enough. But TCU turned out to be a decent team. They beat Charlotte and Richmond. They lost to UCF. Okay, fine. Lost to Clemson. Then they should have beaten Cal and Virginia, and they did beat Syracuse and Stanford. So that's not bad. Wake Forest, of course, comes off a huge win against Virginia. They're not sure looking ahead, but I think what you're going to get is the best effort North Carolina has. Now, is it going to be on my card? No. I respect Wake Forest a lot. They made it on my card. I mean, to make it on my IC6 card, I must really like you, okay? So the fact that this team beat Virginia 16-9 is impressive. They should have beaten Georgia Tech. They only lost them by 1. There's a lot of things that Wake Forest has done very, very well. Having said that, I'm going to take North Carolina plus the 6.5. It seems like a game that North Carolina could win or probably lose by a field goal.
Don't forget, get in on our 2-for-1. That's both Indian Cowboy and my picks for football for the week. All you got to do, DocSports.com/Craig Arun. Instead of $99 each, it's just $99 for both of us. Good luck. See you in.
Craig, Liberty 2.5-point favorite here against FIU. Liberty is 4-5. FIU is 4-5. Liberty losing to a good Missouri State team 17-21. FIU, of course, beating Middle Tennessee State 56-30 because they were coming off back-to-back losses. And every time this team comes off back-to-back losses, they win. They lost to Delaware and Connecticut. Guess what? They beat Western Kentucky outright as a 10-point dog, 25-6. That tells you something. Lost to Kennesaw State and Missouri State. Next game, Middle Tennessee beat them 56-30 as a 1-point dog. Who do you like?
I like Liberty a lot in this game. This might actually make my card. I think it's a good Liberty team. They've had some quality wins, even some tight ones. And both of these teams in the same situation. If they win 2 of the last 3, they'll become bowl eligible. So I think you're going to get best effort from both of them. But I just think Liberty's a slightly better team, and you're getting under that key number of 3. Give me Liberty minus 2.5. All right, next game we have Coastal Carolina. Nice win last time out. They face a Georgia Southern team that's actually favored here, minus 2.5, total 61. Georgia Southern needs to win 2 of these last 3 games to become bowl eligible. Can they get it done this week?
All right, so Coastal Carolina 6-3, Georgia Southern's 4-5. Here's the thing: Coastal Carolina, they've won 4 in a row, right? They beat Georgia State and Marshall and App State and Louisiana-Monroe, and they give them credit. I mean, covered 4 in a row. Georgia Southern, after that game against Arkansas State where they were showing some life and beat Georgia State, they did beat App State in their last game, 25-23, as a decent dog. And Georgia Southern has fantastic. They beat them 26-6 last year. They have fantastic coaching. If you don't know, Georgia Southern is coached by the former USC head coach Clay Helton, right? So I think what happens here is Georgia Southern certainly has the pedigree to win this game. They're trying to get into a bowl game. Coastal Carolina has South Carolina on deck, so they could be looking ahead. I'm taking Georgia Southern on the money line here for those reasons. Craig, Utah here, 7.5-point chalk against Baylor. As you know, Utah comes off that monster win against Cincinnati, 45-14. And they should have never lost that BYU game. I wish they hadn't, because if they hadn't, they'd be sitting. And that was one of my top plays this year. I mean, I've had a winning season, but that was one of those games. By the way, I went 4-1 in football this week, and Craig had a winning week too. So that's pretty darn incredible. So you should join our football package just for that. But, Utah coming in, Baylor comes in off of a nice win against UCF, covering easily. They were 3-point favorites. Utah beat them 23-12 last year. Who do you like?
Utah still, I think, holds out hope that people beat each other and they end up in the Big 12 championship game and they face Texas Tech, and then the winner would be in the playoff, whoever. Utah's the best team, I think, in the league. I think they're still better than Texas Tech, to be very honest. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they'll maybe get that chance to prove that, but I think Utah will play motivated, and I think they win out here. I think they win this game pretty easily. I think Baylor's just not that great a team, and I think they show that here. Next game, Purdue at Washington. Purdue hung tight with Michigan last time out. Now they face a Washington team as a 17-point favorite here. Washington, total 53.5. Tough travel spot here for a Purdue team that's struggled this year at just 2-8.
Yeah, I think Washington's going to do well this game. I mean, they lost to Wisconsin 10-13. It's got to be a frustrating game. Washington was up 10-3, and they didn't score in the second half, And they had a quarterback that only passed for 134. It is tough to lose, Craig. I want to read you to the stat line for Wisconsin's quarterbacks, okay? Smith, 3 for 12 for 8 yards. Simmons, 2 for 3 for 16 yards. O'Neal, 0 for 2 for 0 yards. And West, 1 for 1 for 24 yards. That's the team they lost to. Wisconsin passed for 48 yards and beat them. I mean, if you're the Washington coach, I like the fact that, Purdue covered against Ohio State and Michigan. Washington comes off of an 11-point chalk loss. This is a team that beat Illinois, for God's sakes, 42-25. It's a team that lost to Ohio State 6-24. This is a pretty good team. I think Washington's going to be pissed at the world here. I think they're going to come in and they're going to try to lay the wood down here. I'm going to lay the 17. Give me Washington minus 17. Utah State plus the 6 here against UNLV. Utah State, of course, is 5-4. UNLV, of course, is 7-2. Utah State beating Nevada 51-14 in their last game. UNLV coming off that nice win against Colorado State 42-10. Both these teams are off a win. Let's call it how it is. This Dan Mullen experiment at UNLV has been a massive success. Massive success. So let's give him the credit that he deserves. That over-under in Vegas was 8.5, I think, or 7.5, and I think he's definitely going to hit that. Give him some credit here. He's performed. Those overs are tough to hit because you got to actually perform. Utah State beat them 50-34 last year. Both teams are off a win. Who do you like?
This is a tough spot for UNLV. The UNLV's defense, they're winning in spite of their defense. Their defense is bad. They probably should have lost to Air Force. They gave up 1 million points to Air Force. They probably should have lost at Miami, Ohio. They gave up 1 million points there. Got a late turnover that ended up getting the win. But that comes back to bite you eventually. And I think it's this game. I think even if they win, I just can't see them covering the number here. Utah State, I think, avoids a turnover. UNLV maybe gives it up and maybe one too many. And that defense for UNLV just can't stop anybody. So give me Utah State in this one plus the points. Next game, Florida at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 16.5-point favorite, total 54.5. Of course, the big news is Lane Kiffin's. Everybody wants Lane Kiffin. Everybody, including the Ole Miss, of course. And that distraction, they played good still. But is this the game that maybe we see that it rears their ugly head?
Well, first of all, Florida is trying to be so Lane Kiffin's idol is Steve Spurrier. Okay, that's the reason why Lane Kiffin actually wears a visor, because Steve Spurrier wears a visor. He's talked about it in interviews. He's like, Steve Spurrier was my hero, and I wanted to be just like him. So he wore a visor, so I wore a visor. Lane Kiffin has family members who are on the Florida Athletic Board, right? And they're trying to recruit him over there. So that's the story behind that. But Lane Kiffin's son, is playing football in the area. His daughter goes to Ole Miss. I don't think he's going anywhere, to be honest with you. I think he's going to leverage this into a really big payday, which he absolutely should. And I think he really enjoys being at Ole Miss. But I think this is a bad game for them in the sense that Florida lost to Kentucky 7-38. You know why? Because nobody in the Florida coaching staff was prepping for Kentucky. Every single person in that Florida coaching staff is prepping for Ole Miss. They showed absolutely nothing to Ole Miss in that last game. This is the same Florida team that lost to UGA by 4 points. Okay, this is a team that absolutely can hang tough in this game. Ole Miss obviously beat Citadel 49-0. They didn't cover the minus 50, which is hilarious. But Florida beat this team 24-17 last year. If this is the last game that Billy Napier sort of coaches, then so be it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I think
Billy Napier's already been
Sorry,
fired.
not Billy Napier, but if this is their coaching staff, right? I think their entire coaching staff was prepping for this game.
Sure.
So I think as Florida comes off of that ugly loss to Kentucky, 7-38, it was a sandwiched-in game for this Ole Miss game. So you cover against Georgia, you have a sandwiched-in Kentucky game, and then you have Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss, is going to get tested in this game, and I'm going to take I'm going to take Florida plus the 16.5. I think they end up losing by a touchdown. I think it's kind of funny. They're like, you want to come here and take our job? Let me show you what we can do. And some of these Florida kids are going to try to play themselves up for Kiffin himself. They'd like to come over to Ole Miss too in the portal. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of people are auditioning here. Is Lane Kiffin auditioning for Florida? Are the Florida kids auditioning for Lane Kiffin? It's very much of a dance here, and I'm going to take Florida with a strong effort. I don't think they'll win, but I think they lose by a touchdown. And Craig, there is a chance that Florida might really hang in there. It's going to be an interesting game here because now that the college football playoff has come out too, it can get into these guys' heads as well. Ole Miss has to be really careful. Delaware 9-point favorite here on the road against Sam Houston State, Craig. Delaware big win against Louisiana Tech 25-24. Sam Houston big win against Oregon State 21-17. Does the Sam Houston train continue here as a 9-point dog and hang and give Delaware some trouble?
Sam Houston, was in the opening game against, I remember, Western Kentucky, I believe it was. They scored in the third quarter off of, I think it was off their defense. They took the lead, and all of a sudden Western Kentucky came back and then covered, ended up winning pretty easily in the end. This team had shown some glimpses. Finally, last week they broke through. When you do that, a lot of times we see it come right back. I think you take them again this week. It's a lot of points here. Delaware's had a great season, but this is a tough road trip. After that nice win against Louisiana Tech last week, I think it's a big letdown spot. Give me Sam Houston plus the points in this one. All right, we got Georgia and Texas. Georgia's favored by 6, total 47.5. Texas has to win to get in. Georgia loses. I still think they have a very good argument to get in and probably will. Texas, can they get revenge from last year? That's the question. What do you like here?
I think them winning against Vandy was huge. That was really impressive. I think beating Oklahoma was 23-6 was huge. They should have never, ever lost to Florida. If they didn't, they would have made a much easier case here because they would have been the only team that lost to Ohio State by 7 points. Okay. Now, Georgia rolls in coming off a big win against Mississippi State, but I thought Georgia was shaky against Florida. I thought Georgia was shaky against Auburn. I think this is a dangerous game for Georgia. I think Texas can come in here. I think they can absolutely hang tough. I think Georgia beat them in overtime last time. And I think, if you played against Ohio State at Ohio State as the opener, you're not going to get intimidated by too many things. The public is backing Georgia here. It will be fascinating to see if Georgia loses this game, if they get in. Because then what the SEC is going to do is be like, well, we should get Alabama in, we should get A&M in, we should get Georgia in, we should get Ole Miss in, we should get Texas in. And, I'm sure they're going to try to figure out a way to try to get Vandy in too. So they're going to try to get 6 teams out of the 12 in, which is just insane. But
I think they might get 8. That's what they're going for. 8 was what they're saying.
I don't think they'll be able to do that. That's just insane. That's going to cause a riot. You think they're trying to get Vandy in, and who else do you think they're trying to get in?
Well, Texas. If Texas gets in, it would be if Texas wins, it would be Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Vandy, Texas A&M. Who am I missing?
Ole Miss,
Georgia, and Georgia. Yeah. So
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that. The funny thing is, the top 2 seeds are Big Ten teams.
They're going to beat each other in the Big Ten championship game. One of them's going to lose, so then they won't be the top 2.
But they still should be. I mean, I understand, but
it depends on who wins. If Alabama wins out, they'll be the number 2 seed.
Yeah. I'm gonna take Texas here. I think this is a good opportunity for Texas to do well because Texas knows that their opportunity for error is much less than Georgia's opportunity for error. Let's say. By the way, before I forget, Craig. Last call here. You got to do the 2-for-1 deal. 1 week for Craig is $99 for football. 1 week for me is $99. You get both of us for $99, which is just insanity, only because you go to this link right here. On top of that, YouTube Premium, you get an extra video from me every single day. If you truly want the edge, just like this, you get an extra video every single day. You get 5 extra selections. You get a written summary of every single selection. And on top of that, if you get the third level, which is $49.99, you get 3 premium selections from Craig, which are $90 a day value for just $50 a month. And then you get me for free along with that package. Got to jump on YouTube Premium if you're really serious and you really want the edge. All right, Craig, we're moving on to Virginia Tech here against Florida State. Virginia Tech, 13.5-point dog. They're 3-6. I thought they played well against Louisville, but they fell short by 12. Florida State comes in off of that 10-24 loss against Clemson. They're 1.5-point dogs going in. What do you think here? Both these teams are off losses. Both these teams are kind of ticked off. A total of 55.5.
I think Virginia Tech's season was when they won that overtime game. They got all excited, and it kind of just –
that was my 7-star.
You look who they have left. They're going to lose all 3 games most likely, Virginia, Miami, and then this game. I just think this is too much. I think Florida State at home just takes care of business. Florida State still would like to make a bowl game. And, with their schedule, they have, let me see, I believe they have 2 wins out of here. NC State and Florida left, so Florida maybe doesn't have much to play for. So if you get this one, that looks like they should go bowling. I think they get it done in this spot. Next game, UCLA at Ohio State. Ohio State's the number 1 team in the latest playoff rankings. Deserving favorite here, total 49, the 31.5-point favorite. Can UCLA just keep it close? Is that even an option?
Well, I mean, how great was UCLA early on, and then the wheels fell off because people realized what they were starting.
How bad they were.
Yeah, they were great. I'm sorry, they were terrible. They were great, and now they're back to terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is because teams started figuring out what they were doing. But they did what they needed to do, which is to get James Franklin fired. Right? They were part of the process, and it was one of those things where this team beat Penn State 42-37. That was the first game that Franklin people are like, what? Right? Because that was the coaching change. And then they beat Michigan State 38-13, beat Maryland 20-17. And then, of course, Curt Cignetti taught everybody how to destroy this team because that's what Cignetti does. Okay? And he took it and he just destroyed them 56-6. He was like, oh, you guys think you're good? So he totally trolled Maryland, Michigan State, and Penn State. That just shows you how much of a better coach Cignetti is than Franklin, doesn't it? That just shows how much of a better coach he is, throttling the team 56-6. Now, they lost to Nebraska as a -2-point favorite, but I thought they played pretty well. And if you would have told UCLA at the beginning of the year, you're only going to lose Nebraska by a touchdown, UCLA would have been thrilled, okay? And all that money they gave that quarterback didn't work out, right? Necessarily. But, Ohio State comes into this game 9-0, and it's just wild. But I will tell you this. I think UCLA hangs tough, man. I do. I just think they have enough of a creative offensive coordinator that they hang tough, which is crazy because on a 31.5-point total or a 31.5-point line, you get a total here of like 49, which is nuts. Now, Ohio State did not cover against Purdue. That was the first game, Craig, where they have not covered in a long time. Okay, if you're an Ohio State backer, one of the first games they haven't covered in a long time, I think UCLA will surprise here. I think UCLA will surprise. I think they'll hang tough. But I'm not putting this on my card, however. All right, Craig, Mississippi State here, 7-point dog against Missouri. Mississippi State's had a good year. They're going to go bowling. They've had a good year. Give them some credit. They have 5 wins. They lost to Georgia by 20, but they did beat Arkansas. They should have beaten Florida. They beat, they beat Arizona State as well. They had a pretty good year. Missouri, of course, the wheels have sort of fallen off after that Vandy loss, and they lost to A&M, and that's not their fault. I mean, Vandy's a good team. A&M's a good team. They got Oklahoma on deck, and they'll finish up with Arkansas. It's tough in the SEC, man. It really, really is tough in the SEC. There's no doubt about that. What do you like here? Missouri coming off back-to-back losses, but Mississippi State can be a feisty team. Who do you like?
Well, Mississippi State needs to win this game. They're not going to go bowling. They're 5-5. You got to – it's possible. Sometimes they take none, but you got to be 500. They play Ole Miss next. That's their only game after this. Ole Miss will be a probably 20-point favorite in that game. Now, saying we haven't seen that upset in that Egg Bowl, but I think they get the bowl eligible this week, though. Last week was just too much, but they played right with pretty much every team in the SEC this year, and I think Missouri kind of shot their wad a little the last few games, and I think this is a huge letdown spot when you see Mississippi State not 500, just 5-5.
Yeah, I think in Mississippi State, if there's not enough 6-6 teams, I think they take what's called the ARP, right? The APR, the academic progress rate, and try.
But that also is some SEC teams don't want to go to these bad bowls. So it could be like a chance where they're like, listen, we don't want to go to humanitarian bowl.
Because what happens is some of these other schools that are like a Delaware gets to play them, and the SEC school doesn't care, and the SEC school team loses, and it makes them look even worse.
Yeah, I like Mississippi State in this spot. I do think they get bowl eligible. Kennesaw State at Jacksonville State. We've just got a few games left. We'll run through these because we are past our hour as we try to keep it in. Kennesaw State's favored by 3, total 54. What do you like?
Kennesaw State is 7-2 coming in. Big win against New Mexico State, but they didn't cover. Jacksonville State, of course, has won 4 in a row, beating UTEP 30-27. Jacksonville State beat them pretty bad, 63-24 last year. I think because Kennesaw State didn't cover their last game, they weren't as focused. I'm going to take Kennesaw State on the money line. Craig, Louisiana Tech here versus Washington State. Louisiana Tech 7.5-point dog, 5-14 versus a 4-5 team. La Tech lost to Delaware 24-25 as a 6-point favorite. Washington State lost to Oregon State 7-10 as a small favorite. Who do you like?
I like Louisiana Tech. I thought they were maybe they should have won that game last week. I thought they were the more talented team. It did not happen. I think this week they bounced back. I don't think Washington State should be favored by a touchdown. I think it should be more like 3.5, not 7.5. Give me Louisiana Tech. I would sprinkle on the money line even on this one. I think they can win this game. Next game, Big 12 action. BYU finally lost their first game, and they've fallen hard. Now they're like basically I guess they could still win the Big 12 championship game in a rematch against Texas Tech, and then they get in. But BYU's favored by 4.5 against TCU here, total 52. What do you like?
Huge win for Texas Tech, right? And that was the game that they needed to win. Nobody wanted to see BYU into the tournament and or in the playoff, and it showed. TCU beat this team 44-11 a couple years ago. They lost to Iowa State 17-20. They're going to be super motivated coming in. But I think BYU is going to be upset coming off their first loss. You got to respect the team that beat Utah by 3. You just do. And I'm going to take BYU. No one ever gives BYU a chance. I've been wrong on BYU, but I knew they were going to lose to Texas Tech, even though I didn't have it on my card. But I just gave them respect. I'm going to take BYU minus the 4.5. They could be hungover in this game, but BYU is just not built like that. These Mormons aren't like that, Craig. They're not built like that. They are a very good, hardworking group. They bounce back well. I'm going to take BYU. Boise State here, plus 3-point dog against San Diego State. Interesting. Boise State is the dog, Craig, mind you. They won 56-24 last year. Big opportunity here for San Diego State. Boise State lost to Fresno State 7-30 as 17-point favorites looking ahead to this game. San Diego State also lost to Hawaii 6-38 as a 6.5-point favorite looking ahead to this game. Both these teams are looking ahead to this game, and they both lost. Total sits at 41, by the way.
Yeah, we said we liked Hawaii last week, and they I didn't know they'd win outright, but I definitely thought they'd keep within the number. It was never close. Never close. I think that was an embarrassment for San Diego State. But it is tough on the comeback game from Hawaii because that travel does take it out of you. These aren't like these are pro guys that they're used to traveling cross country every week. It's just the younger, guys that don't have that kind of experience. I think you take Boise State here plus the 3. I just think it screams like this is going to be a close game. Maybe a field goal wins one way or the other. I think that's Boise that gets the late field goal. Next game, Wyoming, Fresno State. This is our last game. Fresno faced by minus 3.5 off that big win at Boise or against Boise last time out. They face Wyoming here. I was shocked this line wasn't bigger. Total 40.5. What do you like?
Wyoming 4-5. Fresno 6-3. Wyoming lost to San Diego State 7-24. Fresno beating Boise State 30-7 as a 17-point dog. That's got to feel fantastic for Fresno State, who is 6-3. Wyoming is 4-5. Almost like a culture-changing win for Fresno State, if you ask me. Wyoming, of course, comes off that loss to San Diego State, but did play well against Colorado State and San Jose State and so on. I will tell you that this total sits at 41 or 42 or 40.5, and I like the under here. I think what happens here is Wyoming rolls into this game. When Wyoming does well, they play well on defense, such as beating Colorado State 28-0. Fresno State scoring 30 points in their last game was the highest that they've scored in 5 weeks, and I think they have a big letdown. Give me the under here, Craig.
All right, so there's you have it. There's all of our games for this week. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button. Also, don't forget, you want to get in and you want to say, hey, which one of these games do you like the most? We make it easy for you. We have 14 plays this week. I see we'll have 6. I will have 8. There'll be 3 top plays in those. They're all included for just $99. That's normally it's $99 for just me or just Arun. You get us both. DocSports.com/Craig Arun. Only place you can get that link or that deal is if you type this link in, or the link is in the description. Also, don't forget to go along with it. Buy both. It's $49.99 a month. That's nothing. That's nothing. And you get all 3 levels. You'll get all kinds of extra plays. And it's not just football, FYI. This includes all sports. So we'll have NBA, college basketball, NHL, a little bit of everything. So make sure you get in on that. any of these levels. The link is in the description to purchase. All right, guys, have a great day. Don't forget, hit that thumbs up. We'll see you again next time.